yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong.
So hello everyone, welcome back to the last round of the Firebeasts and the Ranch Racing Teams Championship with the MotoGP drivers as well as icons. Today I will not be joined by my teammate unfortunately, but I will do my best to try and do present to you a very good stream today. As you can see, the last race, of the championship will be taking place on Le Mans Circuit La Sarthe in the Group 1 cars, so bringing the cars to home turf, I should say. And we still only see the window in small, unfortunately, because we do have the Italian commentators' web camera still turned on at the moment, but the qualifying is underway. It will take us approximately, if I can see the time, 10 minutes, although I'm not quite sure. But yeah, drivers will be qualifying, doing their best to try and get some laps in before we conclude the season. We did see the points rankings just before. Unfortunately, it has gone off screen now, and I don't remember it, unfortunately, so I'm sure it will be shown again, in which case I will walk you through it. But in the meantime, on the stream, we can actually see a commercial right now, so just give us 1 minute and we'll be back. So welcome back everyone. We are now back into the qualifying session. So just to continue where I was earlier, we do see Catfish finally making an appearance in this race. Unfortunately, he did miss the previous two races. I do believe his teammate is Dino, who has been doing a lot of work to try and keep him and his teammate in a good place in championships. And talking about the performance that Dino's actually shown, he's done very, very well in all of the races. Unfortunately, last week he didn't quite take the wins, but on Mount Panorama and sorry, not Mount Panorama, on Red Bull Ring, he's done very, very well in the Aston Martin. So he's had some good points on the board. As we did come off the big straight here, we do see Valentino Rossi sitting in third place at the moment because every driver is pitting now. I do believe they have been aborting their laps now. As they are now back in the boxes, and I do believe the drivers are leaving the room. The qualifying will be restarted, as we do see. So we will be back soon.
Grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only the best, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path. If you want it bad, I'm gonna show you where it's at. Yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done. I'll be number one, working hella hard until I get just what I want. Yeah, rises like the sun, yeah, fatal like a gun. Shooters gonna shoot and I'm gonna shoot until I fall. Yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
So now we should be back to qualifying. As I said, welcome back everyone once again. We are back into the qualifying session. We have unfortunately had to restart the session because of some technical difficulties, but it looks like we are finally getting underway now. With Catfish in second place now. He is, as I said, making his appearance now for the first time in the last couple of races. And as you see on screen now, the half a second penalty, that is something that the drivers will have to be aware of when they're racing here. It's really easy to collect penalties on the close to 4-minute lap time, I believe. Unfortunately, I'm not very, I don't usually drive this track, but I do certainly understand that it's not an easy track to get right, especially in these really, really fast cars that that just do incredible speeds, and the faster they go, the harder it is to actually control them. So just entering the main straight, we are running the chicane version of the track. And as I said before as well, with the Group 1 cars staying in the same class as the racing itself and the track itself, so we do see this category in real life. I do believe that is one way to represent the way that real life racing works in general. I'm sure that there isn't a person who hasn't heard of this legendary track with the yearly 24-hour race taking part in this, currently being won by Toyota. I did see someone spinning off in the background there, unfortunately. As I did say, it is really hard to get these long braking points and the braking zones right, and especially these tight corners, essentially entering the chicane in both chicanes on the main straight, as well as this last sector which Mauro Sanchini is entering now. It's a very, very scary right-hander here. It's very hard to miss, very easy to miss your braking point, as he has gone a little bit deep there. We have a 90-degree right-hander coming up, and as we take that with a little bit of lag, we do accelerate out of there, and we will be approaching the Porsche curves now after a little long straight. And as Mauro Sanchini leads us into the Porsche curves here, taking the right-hander and the left, it's a very, very quick combination of corners. I do believe they are on the softs again, the drivers. And there's another really long right-hander before another left-hander, which takes us onto one of the straights. And then there's a tiny little right-left-hander here, and then we've got the double chicane to close off the lap at the end, which will be closing off the out lap of Mauro Sanchini here. Hitting the curb nicely, slightly missing the second one, I believe, but then taking it really quite wide, and he has managed, I do believe, to get through that chicane. There is a bit of lag involved there, so it's pretty hard. And for an out lap, he has a 3:28, so I do believe we will be seeing times around 3:10, I reckon, in the qualifying session. As he negotiates the first chicane pretty well. We are still on board with Mauro Sanchini. Now there is just a little right-hander left here. It's very easy to get a penalty here. I do hope that he will be managing it, as he just about stays on track. So that was a very good run through there. He definitely hasn't got much to improve there, but we do see Frags in his rearview mirror actually. So he is making use of that slipstream that Mauro Sanchini is actually dragging in front of him now. with only 6 minutes left, so I think the drivers will have 2 hot laps to prove their skills here as we move on to Paso in 4th place. The FRT drivers once again, in terms of track position, preferring to take the early spots in the field that are doing their qualifying laps. We don't see too many big gaps between the drivers, although Paso is out of the slipstream of Tony Mick in front, although that could be intentional. The interesting thing about this track is that half of it is a very long straight, and there are some more straights along the way, but also there are some really tight technical corners, and the more downforce that every car has, they will be losing more and more time in the corners because of the dirty air. So it is really important that there is no one distracting these drivers, but at the same time the slipstream can gain so much time for everyone on the straights. So it is really a choice that every driver has to make in this race, whether they want to stick for the slipstream or not. In terms of car choice, I do believe we see the older Peugeots in the back, which are non-hybrid, but then we do see some hybrid cars, such as the Toyota that Paso is sat in at the moment. I do believe that is a Toyota, correct me if I'm wrong. Approaching now at the end of the straight. Now entering the slightly more technical part of the track, although Paso, there you go. So what I was saying earlier as well about the penalties being dished out just for a tiny little cut, he does have a half a second penalty that is now down to 4/10, but that is still something he will have to nurse towards the end of the lap. He will have another lap to try and correct himself, but I doubt that he will want to do that, although I do believe that fuel and tire wear is off for qualifying. So drivers will definitely not be struggling to get a second lap in, because more or less the situation is the same, if not better. So we see Paso giving off about 2 more tenths of his penalty and fully letting go. So now I think he will be charging his hybrid engines and hybrid car back up, because he will need that charge for the first chicane, the beginning of the lap, as we do see the first lap times coming in with Frax setting a 17.5 and a Tony Mick setting a 16.8 right afterwards. So that's that is quite good times, as we see Rossi letting go of a 1.5 second penalty. He also is inside the Peugeot, I believe, so he will not be running on hybrid energy. Bear in mind that at the start all the hybrid cars will be gaining a lot of time on the non-hybrid cars, purely because of the boost that those cars have at lower RPMs. So bear in mind that the qualifying is really crucial for the Peugeot guys right now to get as close to the front as possible, otherwise they will be losing a lot of spaces at the beginning of the race from the Toyota and the Porsche and the Audi cars that are equipped with hybrid engines and the energy recovery systems actively in the modern era, obviously, of racing. But yeah, continuing the lap with Rossi, I do believe they will have another lap after this, so that he will actually get 3 hot laps in. After this one, he will have another lap to complete with a 1.6 second penalty on Catfish. So he has been getting really unlucky on this track, unfortunately. It is really easy to cut through and keep penalties on this race and track as well. As we see Rossi completing the main straight here, going into the second chicane, which is a left and right corner instead of a right and left, which marks the first chicane. Braking into the left-hander now. It is important to carry as much momentum out of here as possible, using as much of the track as possible. And he is 1.1 seconds up on his best time, which is unfortunately about 5 seconds slower than the current best, so he really has to keep improving that lap time in order to have a chance of starting quite high up the field. So now he is heading on the back straight now, so not the back straight, sorry, the straight after the back straight. which now marks the start of the technical section of the circuit. As I said, I'm not very familiar with this track, but there is one thing for sure. These drivers will certainly be knowing their apexes and braking points and everything, because they unfortunately have to, otherwise they have no real chance to actually set out a really good lap time. I hope they have practiced quite a bit for it, because the longer the track, the harder it is to get a good lap time together, so it's all about the consistency here. As we see Mauro Sankhin actually improving on his previous lap. He is unfortunately 2 seconds slower, but anything can still happen when he crosses the line. It is a very impressive time there by Tony Mick. As now Mauro Sankhin completes his lap, will he improve his time? He is sitting in third at the moment. He will be improving his time, but unfortunately only by half a second, as we see Tony Mick improving by exactly half a second as well. So both drivers there, as we do see Rossi actually picking up half a second penalty in the last complex. Now it's only 4 tenths, but unfortunately that will have an effect on his lap time, and he will brake to give that off, but that means he's compromised his speed for the next lap, which he unfortunately had to, because otherwise the next lap's going to be invalidated. So he's actually done a lot better now than before, but he is now 3 seconds off the pace. Catfish setting a 3-minute 25 lap time. Completing the last chicane, Hornatoto actually setting a 3-minute 23, so there is a huge difference in the first and the last place of qualifying here. But what's really important here for the drivers is to keep on the slipstream, I believe, in the race, because the moment they lose that, it's going to be really hard to catch back up. Negotiating the first chicane now, Rossi. Unfortunately, he is down on his time by 3 tenths there, which is most likely down to the beginning of the track, where he had to brake on the main straight. He has lost a lot of momentum there. So I do believe that he's actually up on his time, although that little incident has caused him to compromise himself slightly into the exit of that corner. Goes Rossi now, only 1.5 tenths down, so he's improved another 2 tenths in just 2 corners. So you can just see how well he can actually do if he gets it all together. Now exiting the last corner of the straight. Do see the car fully revving out in 6th gear there. There's a lot of sparks flying off the car. Obviously these cars don't run very high ride heights. They will be driving around with fairly low wind resistance, which means there's a lot of downforce on the car. Reducing the height of the car obviously significantly helps it grip in the corners better, but that means in slight elevation changes the car will be giving slight sparks away. But we see Frax now completing his lap. Unfortunately, he gets a half a second penalty as well, just for the end of his lap. So will he abort it, or will he finish his lap? I do believe that the time is over now, so he has to finish this lap, as he goes slightly wide at the end there, finishing his lap with a 3-minute 18.1, so I don't believe he would have improved anyway. Completing qualifying in 2nd place provisionally now, as there is every chance for him to be jumped by other drivers. Unfortunately, we aren't seeing the other drivers crossing the line just yet, but Mauro Sankhin has certainly done that, so he is staying in 3rd place, as we see Rossi improving to 18.9, which puts him in 5th place now, but Merend actually doing a 3-minute 17.6, which now puts him into 3rd place, now pushing Mauro Sankhin off the first 3. Catfish putting in a 3-minute 21 now in 7th place. So in 8th place now. and we see some of the drivers already in the pits now. Horner total setting a 3 minute 23. I do believe that's enough for 9th place, and I think that actually concludes qualifying. Every driver has crossed the line, so we can see Tony Mick taking pole by over a second actually, over his teammate Frax, and Morend in 3rd place. The 3 FRT guys locking out the first 3 for qualifying now, with Mauro Sanchini in 4th place, who will be having a huge advantage on the straight because of the hybrid engine, so he might actually be skipping up to 1st place there. As we see Fattoria in 5th place now, completing the 3rd row will be Top Gun, then Catfish, his teammate. As we go back to the standings now, Rossi still sitting in 2nd place. He was 1st in the previous race, but he has dropped back to 2nd with 138 points. Top Gun and LA still leading the championship at 149 points now, but I don't see them in the race right now, so there is every chance for Rossi to actually take this win, unless Dino doesn't do quite well. And I don't actually see Catfish's name on this list. I think he was Dino's teammate, but I'm not entirely sure anymore. As we see a slight technical issues on the start of the race, so we will be back with the racing soon. Until then, just enjoy watching the stream.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a past, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be #1. Working hella hard until I get just what I want. Yeah, rises like the sun, yeah, fatal like a gun. Shooter's gonna shoot and I'm gonna shoot until I won. Yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. Grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a past, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going.
So we see now we are back on the grid with the race now beginning with Tony Mick in the first place. Now Frax completing the first row, then Miranda and Mauro Sanchini. Following up is Rossi and Top Gun, and then in the 4th row is Catfish and Passo 5454. We will see a huge start here by the hybrid drivers, as you do see immediately pulling off into the middle. But there is someone into the wall, unfortunately, so that wasn't quite as good as they expected, I believe. I'm not sure who that was, but we do see Passo fighting up now with the hybrid car in 3rd place now, so the driver's actually going all over the place, unfortunately spinning off there. I see a driver in the back, I'm not sure who it was, but Rossi's down to 8th place now, so as much as that qualifying actually helped him out, unfortunately he has compromised his positions. With Passo doing a huge start there, I think he was about 8th in the beginning and now up to 2nd, just shows that hybrid power, how much it could have done. I'm not sure why not Mauro Sanchini, sorry, another driver wasn't able to be able to do that sort of start, but we do see Passo actually pulling away with Tony Mick now. So it's going to be really hard to catch him there because of the sheer power that the car is able to put down at the start. So the order now going into the first chicane at the long straight is Tony Mick still in 1st place with Passo in 2nd, Morenz 3rd, Mauro Sanchini in 4th, Top Gun, Frags, Catfish, the FRT drivers, and then Valentino Rossi in 8th place, dropping quite a few positions at the beginning. So unfortunately that won't be good in his standing at the championship if he wants to take this W for the season. But he is right at the back of the pack, so he has every chance to fight back, and I do believe there will be some mistakes being made on this track. There will be a lot of inconsistencies, I believe, shown purely because of the difficulty that the track has, as well as the cars when they have to be driven around. It isn't really an easy task, so they will be trying their best. Tony Mick now negotiating the last corner on the long straight with Pasto behind him. And we will see a restart now called by Ernesto, unfortunately, so we will be back with the restart soon.
Do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is...
So we are now back once again on the starting grid. We see the same order being done by Tony McFrax, Moren, Mauro Sanchini, Vittoria, Top Gun, Catfish and Passo. So we did see Passo actually making progress up all the way into 2nd place. So let's see now what will happen with the hybrids. Starting now, pulling off immediately. Look at the back, there is someone in 13th place immediately pulling off. A really good start. Look at Catfish on the side with the hybrid engine once again. We see Catfish all the way up into 6th place there, as we see Passo actually making a slight contact there with someone going around. I don't know who it was, but Frax goes around as well. I think it was the pole sitter, Tony Mick, going around there. So he's all the way back to the back, and now Passo making an even better start now, all the way up in 1st place, and he is long gone away from Top Gun there. There is over a 2-second gap already for Passo and Top Gun, so all he has to do is just hold on to it, and now he has the victory in his hands pretty much. It was quite a chaotic start, but he has done very, very well to pull off, and look at that gap he's already pulled. Unfortunately, the Peugeot will be a little bit faster in the straight. And we see Rossi actually up into 3rd place there, so he's had a lot more luck than previously there, as the top 2 guys, Frax and Tony Mick, crashing out at the start. Passo pulling an even bigger gap with 2.7 seconds. He will have that gap until the charge runs out of his car. Catfish down into 6th place, but he has improved on that. I believe he started in 9th place there, or 7th. So he has gained as well with the other hybrid car, 400 total behind him. They are in the Toyotas, Ernesto and his teammate Dino in the Peugeot. So Dino is participating in this race. I'm not sure why I didn't see him first, but now 2.4 seconds. So you see Top Gun coming down now, but Passo still has more than 3/4 of his boost. Just look at the distance that he's able to gain on the exit of the next corner. Just pay attention to the gap. It's pretty incredible how much power these hybrid cars can actually put down in low speed corners, as we see Rossi going slightly wide there, losing about another second there. He really has to make sure that he stays in the slipstream of Top Gun. I do believe that is the reason why he's gone slightly wide and deep. I think he didn't anticipate the speed that he was carrying through that corner because of the slipstream. So we see the drivers now breaking away slightly from each other, but from 3rd all the way to 10th place, the group is still staying really tight together. As we do see Rossi actually falling out of the slipstream in front of him, he is a 1.6. He does have a 1.6 second gap, which he has to manage. In the meantime, Dino with the 1.5 behind him, so he's also now out of the slipstream unless he can get a really good acceleration going, but I do believe he will be outside there. Rossi really needs to make sure that he gains about 3 tenths now so that he can climb back up to Top Gun and they can make their way up together to Passo. And we will see a replay from the start now. Tony making Frax, and I do believe Miranda actually getting it all wrong there as well, or getting really unlucky. Frax up into the lead with Tony Mick now going back up the inside, but we do see Passo actually diving in there. Passo knocking out Frax there. Tony Mick is going around blocking his teammate Miranda, and that's how it all unfolded, unfortunately, for these drivers at the beginning. The FRT drivers have all been murdered by Passo in 7th place. Unfortunately, nothing good there to be remembered from that by the FRT drivers. But there is a penalty for the 1st and the 2nd place now, working that gap down below 2 seconds Top Gun compared to Passo. So we might see slight catch-ups being done here. I do hope so, because we still have 26 minutes left from the racing, and there is quite a long time to gain positions and change the game upside down, as we do see Fattori going a little bit wide there, so he will be getting a penalty for that, I believe, whether the game might tolerate that. So I think he gets away with it at the end, but there is penalties in front of him and behind him as well, with Ernesto sitting on a 2.9 second penalty there in 5th place. He has done really well to come up a few positions there as well, but that position, that penalty will be setting him on the back foot, unfortunately. Is he negotiating it? They are going purple now. It is the 2nd lap of the race. Yes, the top 3 are actually really close together now. Below 1 second between Top Gun and Fattoria, so he's done really well to catch back up into the slipstream. He just needs to manage that gap now as we go further, but down the order in 9th place is Mauro Sanchini. Oh, and there's actually someone going really wide there in the entry of that corner there, so I think someone's actually lost out on that, as Catfish is down to 9th place as well. So now Mauro Sanchini is in 8th place right now, with a 6 second gap to Ernesto. So I do believe they have been caught up in a certain incident, the drivers behind 8th place. And the beginning pack is actually starting to close up really well, with only 1.2 seconds now between Top Gun and Passo, and also Fattoria inside the slipstream behind them. I think Dino still has quite a gap to manage there, but certainly the gap is shrinking down at the front of the field. Although I do see Dino actually making a comeback there onto Rossi there. Yeah, exactly. So 1.3 seconds behind him. He is inside the slipstream, so they have a chance. Dino does have a chance, sorry, because I do believe Frax is still outside the slipstream to just catch up and try and minimize the gap as much as possible. Remember that in 3rd place is the 2nd place in the championship standings right now, and in 4th place is the championship leader at the moment. So if the order stays like this, then unfortunately the gap will be reducing slightly, and perhaps enough to change the positions around and give Rossi the final championship win. But we do see Dino getting a very good exit. They're down to 9 tenths there. He gained about 4 tenths in the last few corners. That just shows his raw sheer pace and his driving ability as well. And we see Fattoria actually isn't dropping back from Top Gun. In fact, he's gaining as well, but we see Dino gaining even more, although he has come out from that corner slightly worse than Rossi right there, losing about 1 or 2 tenths on the exit there. But they will be getting onto the main straight now, so the gap will be closing down even more for the drivers that are within the slipstream. We see 4 tenths of a gap between the second and the third place, but we do see Passo actually pulling away, so Top Gun's the one that's being very slow here, because Passo is actually 2.7 seconds ahead. You can just see how much quicker the Peugeot is on the straight, gaining about 4 tenths there just without the slipstream. But we will see Rossi actually attacking Top Gun now for second place behind. So that's the reason why Rossi's been able to close up so much on Top Gun, because he doesn't have the slipstream anymore, unfortunately, because Passo's just sort of running away with this. Look at him gaining 6 tenths from just the exit of that corner there. Oh, and they're actually going side by side, so Fattoria actually takes second place from Top Gun there, up into second, so that is huge for his chances in the championship. But at the same time, look at Dino and everyone else from the FRT team arriving from the back. FRT drivers from 3rd all the way to 7th place, as well as some more down the order, unfortunately, because of the beginning incidents of Merend and Tony Mick. They are unfortunately at the back of the grid, with Catfish completing at the back. But we will see Fattoria taking second place with Passo in the lead. Let's see how well he can do, as we see Top Gun actually having a little bit of wheel spin there, so he will be losing another place to Frax there, who is now back to his starting position, I believe. And now Rossi trying to run away from Frax there, trying to build the gap to get away. Remember, his main goal now is to try and get back to Passo. He will be gaining a lot on the straights, but he will be losing a lot in the corners. And we see Top Gun actually throwing it up the inside of Tony Mick there, so Tony Mick's made a huge comeback up into 5th place there, considering what happened at the start, but Top Gun just shoves him out of the way. He said no thank you, and keeping the 4th place there for himself. There is still 20 minutes, over 2/3 of the race left, but it seems like that these drivers don't want to wait around any longer, and they want to get it done as soon as possible, which is fair enough. Perhaps that is the strategy to go for, but in the meantime they are losing a lot of time in the front, as we see Tony Mick actually taking back his 4th place from Top Gun there, with a 1.4 second gap to Frax in front of him. Mick now 1.3 seconds from Frax, going into the last combination of chicanes. And they're off to the main straight now with a I'm not sure anymore, unfortunately. It is a 1.2 second gap, I believe. But Top Gun very close to Tony Mick there. Drivers now completing the 3rd lap of the race, so I think that the race will actually be about 6 laps more, so it will be about 9 laps the race, although it could be just 8, I'm not entirely sure, as he does get a penalty there for slightly extending the track, so he will be dropping further back from Frax, unfortunately, but trying to build the gap to Tony Mick now. Tony Mick, in fact, also having a half a second gap as well. Penalty there. So, and also Frax in 3rd place also has a penalty. So drivers, all the FRT drivers, actually pushing the limits so hard there, trying to gain a lot of time, actually gaining penalties instead, unfortunately, which sets them back slightly. But because of the nature of the track, it isn't too hard to get rid of these while driving. So they are quite lucky in that sense. It won't be too much of a compromise for these drivers to actually keep making their way up. Mauro Sanguini also with a 3/10 penalty down in 8th place. There are quite big gaps now being developed between drivers. Four seconds in front, 4 seconds behind for Mauro Sanguini in 8th place. Remember that he actually did start in a very, very good place at the beginning, but now has unfortunately dropped back all the way to 8th place, 14 seconds behind the lead of Passo. And now they're racking up even more penalties now, but we did see an overtake from Frax onto Rossi, so Frax is now up to 2nd place. Considering the fact that it was Top Gun in 2nd place about 1 lap ago, it is now him in 5th place, and Rossi's actually lost out to Frax, so he's made up a lot of time there. With Passo unfortunately not being able to build the gap further than 2.1 seconds there. Loads of penalties being dished out to Rossi as well, with 2 seconds under his name, as well as Tony Mick with quite a few seconds there as well. Frax breaking away from Rossi there with 1.4 seconds now. I'm not sure what happened to his car, but he is just losing more and more time. Meanwhile, Tony Mick's actually gaining on him from the back, so he's doing really, really well. Going into the first chicane now, going slightly deep once again, so just these tiny driver errors unfortunately not leaving Fattori any spaces. We do see the first pit stops actually being made by drivers refueling slightly, I believe, or fuel actually might be just about enough for every single car. But now there is a 13 seconds gap behind, so he doesn't have to watch his mirrors anymore. If anything, he will have to aim for the undercut here to make sure that he gains as much time as possible. Now 1.9 seconds is the gap between 2nd and 3rd place. And Tony Mick actually all over the back of Mauro Sanguini, who hasn't pitted yet, I believe. He hasn't made his first stop yet. Bear in mind that these drivers who are pitting a lap later will also have a lap fresher tyres by the end. So it will be quite interesting to see which strategy actually works out for these drivers. With Fattori obviously staying out for 1 extra lap, as well as Frax and Passo. So the 3 first drivers are staying out for an extra lap. That perhaps the FRT drivers will be able to slightly undercut them. We will find out at the end of this lap in about 2 minutes time. It will be very exciting to see if the tactics and the strategy worked out. Obviously it's a lot easier to gain time on the others off track, well essentially on track, but they are not essentially in the same race now, the drivers who have done their first stops already. So even being on worse tyres, the fact that they have the position to themselves in front, perhaps they will be able to hang on to it a little bit easier. So we will see how this will play out, as Mauro Sanguini actually defending to Tony Mick there, who hasn't done his pit stop yet, as Tony Mick has. So those FRT drivers will be gaining a lot of time, and now being hunted down by Tony Mick by only 2 tenths separating the 2 drivers. Will he go for it into this corner here? He doesn't, unfortunately. It is a very, very fast right-hander. It's very dangerous to try and overtake here. We see Mauro Sanguini going slightly wide there. Only 3 tenths, now 5 between the 2 drivers. But Tony Mick actually going for the exit speed out of that corner there, so he's down to 4 tenths now once again. He's being very cautious, trying not to murder his opponent in front of him, basically trying to push him off on those fresh set of softs. is now entering the Porsche curves. This is where a lot of time will be made up by Tony Mick, but will he actually gain any time because of the dirty air in these cars? I do believe he's getting a little bit closer because of the sheer tyre advantage, and he will be able to try and move into the last sector. So we see Passo and Frax as well as Rossi, I believe. Yeah, all three drivers going in for their pit stops now. I don't think they will have to refuel. They are about 47-50% of fuel, and we are just under the halfway mark. As we see Mauro Sankini now diving into the pits, so Tony Mick will be beating him off track. Let's see if they actually come out in front of him. Mauro Sankini has already finished his pit. Oh no, sorry. The Passo and Frax have already finished their pit stops as well as Fattoria. Let's see the gap between third and fourth place, with Frax still managing the 1.7 gap between him and Passo, the race leader. This is a fight for the lead, remember, as Tony Mick comes out 2 seconds behind Fattoria now, and they are both on fresh tires now. So if anything, Fattoria now has the advantage to pull off a faster pace than Tony Mick now, try and keep the gap here going so that he can actually hang on to his position now. With, you can see Tony Mick actually going 1.5 seconds, 1.5 tenths purple into the first sector there, so it just shows how much quicker the fresh tyres are with low fuel in the cars. And I don't think they've put in any extra fuel, these drivers, with still a 1.2 second penalty to the name of Valentino Rossi himself, going into the first chicane now. Tony Mick gaining about 1/10.5 since the beginning of the lap, but he actually loses a bit on the exit of that corner. So depending on what sort of lines these drivers are prioritizing is the gap decider, essentially, with a 2.3 second gap now to the car in front. But that penalty does set him back a little bit. Very quick downshifts in these cars as well, down to second gear now. Going slightly wide there, but using all the track width. Losing about 1/10.5 once again to Tony Mick behind him, and I do believe he gets another 1/2 second penalty there because of the track extending. So he's just putting himself even more and more in the back foot, with Dino in 5th place now. So there is only one car between him and his main championship rival there. He really has to make sure that he gets a decent result here. If anything, a victory would be really good, as we see Frax actually getting on the inside the slipstream of Passo now with 7 tenths and rapidly closing that gap in that old style Peugeot with the huge top end. 2 tenths now, 1 tenth now. Will he go for it into the right hander as he does pull on ahead, and he actually does have to position, but he does get undercut back down by Passo. And unfortunately, Passo actually going wide there. He tried a little bit too hard there to hang on to his position. They're dropping all the way down to 3rd place now. So now Rossi up into 3rd, and now, if anything, that could be a safety net, as he does go around. He does get punted off, and Passo is all the way around. Unfortunately, as Tony Mick actually waits for him there. So Tony Mick actually having to compromise his race because of Passo trying to race clean. Had to wait, and now they are all the way at the back of the FRT grid. The FRT train, sorry. Now Passo all the way down from the 1st place up to all the way down to 6th place in that race. He's had a very, very bad start there to his 6th lap. Going once again a little bit wide there into that corner. Now only Tony Mick behind him, respectively, being a very clean racer, just letting him go through because of the shunt that they've had. Ernesto now into 5th place, and now Dino in 3rd and Fattoria in 2nd. The two championship leaders there. 10 minutes left of the race now. Frax actually all the way up into lead by 2.7 seconds now, so he's pulled off a huge gap, and we see 5 seconds between Fattoria and Dino. So he has it all to lose pretty much here. Rossi really has to run a perfect race here to try and maintain that 5.3 second gap between himself and Dino to improve on the points. Will it be enough is the question, as we see Ernesto with a whopping 4.7 second penalty there in front in 4th place. So these drivers do be rocking up penalties during the race. We see 9 minutes left of the race. We are underneath the 1/3 mark, which will hopefully be another 3 laps of fun. So we will see 9 laps, I believe, being completed. As we see a huge train of cars now from the FRT drivers being grouped up here on the main straight. Now Tony Mick going on for a move on Top Gun as well as Passo actually, so it's a double overtake here, going 3 wide into that chicane, but one of them actually hugely missing the braking point. Continuing straight on, unfortunately he didn't make the corner there, but he will have a huge penalty for that. Top Gun down into 7th place now, with Passo in 5th. Trying to recover that mistake he had. In fact, 2 mistakes that he's had, but look at the straight line difference. That is ridiculous between the Peugeot and the hybrid cars. Sanchini pulling up into 7th place now. Daniel up 5 seconds. Oh, actually, Daniel down to 6th place. I'm not sure what happened there between... That's actually very, very bad for him, because Catfish abandoning the race, unfortunately. He hasn't had a really good showing here at the back of the grid. Pretty much the whole race, as we see Top Gun chucking it down the inside of Mauro Sanchini and going a little bit deep there. The 2 drivers fighting it out, and actually, I'm not sure what happened there. I think it was Top Gun slightly being pushed, sucked off by the gravel trap there. So he's lost out massively on that, which allows Moren through into 8th place. Huge events actually unveiling here in the last 1/3 of the race. It's quite incredible to see the turn of events, as we see Dino up down to 6th place now. So I'm not sure what happened to him, but Rossi pulling off a 4-position gap between himself and his championship rival could potentially win him the series in this final race. In 2nd place still Fattoria with a 10-second gap to Tony Mick now. He has worked his way through the gap, the field once again. But he doesn't have to worry about anything for now. There is a 10-second gap he has to manage to the back, so he will have to lose about 3 seconds every lap for him to actually lose out to the cars behind him. Passo on a 2.6-second penalty. He's really starting to push now in 4th place, trying to hunt down Tony Mick in front of him with a 1.1-second gap. He does want his podium back now. With a 3.1-second penalty now, so he's just collecting those penalties, trying to push as hard as he can down, bringing the gap down to 6th. As we see 2 more FRT drivers at the back going off there. As we see Dino once again in the wall, so Dino's down to 9th place now. It's going all downhill for him. He is throwing the championship away, and he gets punted once again by his teammate Ale. So now Top Gun's up to 8th place. If anything, the only person who this race is favouring out of anyone is Rossi here. So he might be taking the final championship victory. Let me just do some calculations for you. I do wish that we could see the live points at the moment. I don't believe I have the list right now. But there is a high chance that Rossi will be taking the championship here, if he manages to hold on to this, and he does have 9 seconds to spare, so he is doing very, very well with 5 seconds of a gap to the leader. But he doesn't have to worry about that. As long as he gets the 2nd place going to himself, he will be able to try and close this race off in 2nd place, as well as the championship in 1st place. Now with a 1.4-second penalty, 1.2 now, bringing it down slightly. I'm just having a look at the points system at the moment. I do believe that they have posted it, but I'm not entirely sure where it is. So I'm gonna have to unfortunately leave leave it to the post-race decisions to be chosen. Top Gun in 6th place now, 9 seconds away from Ernesto. But he does have LA on his back with 8 tenths of a gap. Top Gun in 6th place, 9.8 seconds from Ernesto. Oh, and he's cutting all across the road now. I'm not sure what's happening to Top Gun, unfortunately. He is going a little bit slidey there. I do believe he has dirty tires now, getting a 1.5 second penalty because of that incident there. Fourth place is still Passo, still trying to close the gap to Tony Mick, but I do believe that that won't be the case, unfortunately, because he is just pulling away more and more. There is a now 7-second gap to Rossi, and this will be the final lap of the race, I do believe, if my calculations are correct. And he's actually gaining on Frax now. Frax actually made a mistake there. Only 8 tenths now in front of him, and he will be closing off the gap. So there is a potential victory here for Rossi, not making any mistakes since the beginning of the race. Will we see him take the final race victory, as well as I do believe he will be closing off the championship in 1st place. It's a very crucial time right now for Rossi here to try and take the victory. And it's actually, sorry, so I've been wrong the whole time. Dino was actually behind Rossi for the whole time with 8 points. So it's actually Rossi in 2nd place, Dino in 3rd place with 130 points. There is 8 points of a gap there, but unfortunately Dino is doing really badly in this race. But Top Gun and LA both in the race, as we see Rossi giving a slight nudge to Frax, trying to push him a little bit faster to go, to make him a little bit faster, and he actually pulls out to the side. I do believe this will be him going up to 1st place by the end of the straight, with a half a tenth gap now. Actually, so now Rossi up into 1st place now. Frax in 2nd, over 2 tenths now being pulled out, and Rossi takes the line into the right-hander in 1st place. There is only 1 sector left for him to win, and since LA and Top Gun are both down to 6th and 7th place, there is a 11-point gap for Rossi to close, but he will certainly close that now. If he wins this race, he will be taking the championship. He is only 11 points behind, but he is 5 positions ahead of any threat. So will he be able to hang on to this victory? I do believe if he comes 2nd, then it's still enough for him, but he might be able to win this race with only 6 tenths now. The time is over, so this will mark the last lap, as we do see him completing the last left-hander, then a right-hander left. We do see Frax going slightly wider. That might be a penalty for him once again. There is only the double chicane left for Rossi to take the victory. We see the left-hander and the right-hander now being completed by him, and then once again, and he will be taking the victory in this race, I believe, unless he goes wide. But he doesn't go wide. He will be crossing the line in 1st place, winning the points race as well as the championship. Firebeasts and the Ranch, he will be winning this championship in 1st place, with Top Gun and LA all the way down in 6th and 7th. Unfortunately not being able to do a good race, as LA actually falls down to 8th place now, with Frax and Tony Mick in 2nd and 3rd place respectively. Passo will be crossing the line in 4th now. Ernesto is crossing in 5th, as we see a final battle between Mauro Sanchini and Top Gun here, but Top Gun does have the 1.6 second penalty, so he will be crossing the line in 7th, unfortunately. Although he does break it in front of the line, so he will confirm his 7th place now, with LA in 8th, Miranda in 9th place. As we see the winner here being Valentino Rossi himself. He did win the race for charity and other events before, organised by the Firebeasts and the racing team, but he will be certainly taking this championship as well, just showing his raw pace as well, with all the world titles that he has in real life as well. He seems to be winning championships in virtual games as well. Just shows how well he can drive his cars and knows his bikes as well. It's quite incredible what this man can do. In first place by just 1 second, taking the victory from 11 points behind, as we see the final score there. So that will conclude the race. Congratulations to the winner, Vale Rossi himself, with the stock livery, but his real helmet and clothing showing what he's done, starting from 5th place, winning this race. Thank you everyone for watching. It was a very, very good adventure.
Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. Grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a past, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine, yeah. Every